Seven, over to you.
Greetings, everybody, to another press conference, and we're covering the topic of racism of a royal people and how we end it. We've got a wonderful, wonderful panel today, and I'm really grateful for everybody coming on and participating. And so we're going to basically get everybody to introduce themselves, and then we're going to kick it off and talk about how do we end the abuse, terror, murder of us people of color. We are a royal, majestic people, and we're being brutalized. There's some interesting topical news which I will bring up, but first we're going to start with Alfred. Good evening, Alfred. Thank you for allowing us to be on your platform. We're very, very grateful. How are you, Alfred?
Yes, thank you. And I'm very grateful to be here, and any way that I can support and serve this awakening.
Thank you so much. So for everybody who doesn't know about you, Alfred, could you just say a little bit, because everybody on the panel, apart from Kemet, hasn't really been introduced to what you do. So if you can say a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm a futurist, and I'm known as the founder of exopolitics, which is the science of intelligent life in the universe. And that's sort of what I have done. I was raised in the Caribbean, in Cuba. I come from a multiracial background. My DNA includes the Taino tribe of Cuba, and at positivefuture.info, in accordance with the exopolitical awareness, I have started an initiative to be an Earth representative to the Regional Galactic Governance Council, because I think that Earth needs a representative there.
Can everybody
I'm not
mute?
sure what that noise is.
Can everybody mute their mic, please? If you just go onto the corner, can you mute your mic while?
Yeah, and the insight, one of the platforms there is the abolition of monarchies and churches as state power. And I was sharing with Seven and with Kemet Imani earlier today that I promote the abolition and the termination of the British monarchy and the Dutch monarchy and the Belgian monarchy, because they embody the state, and there you have a white race that is the embodiment of the state, and it's inherently a racial, I believe, a racial supremacy institution that should long be abolished per se, as a matter of law and as a matter of international law. I'm a war crimes judge, so those are my personal opinions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you so much. And we're going to come on to the legendary sister Sophia Stewart, who is the author, creator, owner of The Matrix and Terminator movies. Greetings, Sophia. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing? Thank you for having me on your show. I'm sorry about the other day, but I was already booked for that day, and I tried to get back, but things were a lot longer than I anticipated. But nevertheless, I'm glad to be here today and have lots of stuff to tell everyone.
Okay, so can you just give people, for those who don't know you, and obviously a lot of people know you, but just for the people who have never met you before, can you please give people just a short sound bite? We'll come back to you afterwards so that you can expand upon it, but just about your wonderful, amazing accomplishments, because it is your work that has coined the term the matrix and opened up a whole paradigm. It's you really fostered a whole paradigm shift for humanity, so thank you for that. Much respect for that. I don't think you get as much respect and accolades that you should do, but you know, many people are very, very touched by what you've done. And so it's a great honor and a privilege to have you on this panel with us today. So just tell us a little bit about what you have accomplished in terms of your wonderful books and movies.
Yeah, I want to tell people, first of all, I graduated from City University of New York, graduate school at USC. I went to school with Marcus Allen and Ronnie Lott, the former pro football players. I've done some amazing things with my work. I've written several books, and they're the films that lots of people are familiar with, but it has changed the whole industry very much, because majority of the movies are copying my work. They come from a script and a book adapted to the screen, like Lords of the Ring with J.R. Tolkien's work, and like the Gravity book, the Gravity movies, the Maze book, the Maze movies. So a lot of people don't know about me because they've been hiding this for a long time, because
No.
Are you there, Sophia? You've cut out a little bit.
they
We can't really hear you. I don't know.
for the Matrix and Terminator. That's why people are hiding.
Sorry, Sophia,
Everything's
we
working on
lost.
my end. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost a lot of what you said. So sorry. You might have to just the last bit of what you said, if you like to repeat it, please. Thank you.
No, I said, can you hear me now? Am I crystal
Yeah.
clear now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, but we lost a lot of what you said before. So if you can just repeat it for us, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Oh, I was just saying that the discrimination against me is my accomplishments with the Matrix and Terminator. It's visionary work. And people in Hollywood wanted to take credit for this work. But if you look at the work, The Matrix, it won 4 Oscars. The Matrix is Black leadership, Black superheroes and leadership roles. The role model for the work was the late Muhammad Ali, because at that time in 1980, while I was at USC, he was a living Black superhero. And we did not have that in movies. There was just Superman, Iron Man, Batman, Spider-Man, and Rocky saving the world. No Black superheroes, none of that type of work. So people around the world, when they saw The Matrix and Terminator, they got to see themselves in leadership role for the first time. And I go all the way back in the 80s. I'm in the media already, 1978 onwards. I've done over 4,000 media interviews, mainstream, television, radio, print, blog, podcasts, you name it, I've done it. But it's time for the lie to stop. James Cameron, Gail Ann Hurd, Andy and Larry Wachowski's been lying for years. They never wrote anything. They never created anything. They don't have anything in the Library of Congress. They don't even own any copyrights. They've just been lying to people, and people have been accepting the lie without looking into it, without investigating.
Right, and that's what we're going to talk about today, how institutional racism has affected you as a creator, me as a creator, and generally how we are affected as a people. So thank you so much for that powerful introduction, Sophia. We'll come back to you. I'm going to come to Kemet Imani of Stop the Silence, who's joining us again. Greetings, my sister. How are you?
I'm very good. Greetings, family. As Sister Seven said, I'm Kemet Imani of the Stop the Silence campaign, and we don't hold allegiance to Black Lives Matter like some people are trying to say now. But my background is education, working in the British school state system for many, many years, over 25 years. And I went into philanthropy work, helping our people at home and abroad, setting up food banks and classrooms in the Caribbean and in Africa for disadvantaged people. And we do it now with other members of our community without any funding or anything like that, us just putting our resources together to get it done. But I won't stay too long because I'm more here to listen today because I've been on the other one. Thank you, guys. And give thanks to the ancestors for allowing us all to be here and not forgetting the High Creator first and foremost. Thank you, family.
Ashe to that.
I'm coming to you, my sister Suzanne. Greetings, and thank you so much for joining this panel. You're a bit, do you have any light? Because your screen is a bit dark. You say it's possible to put the light on a bit?
Okay, just hold on. Oh, just hold on a second. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's
that
great.
better?
Let me, I can see you great now. So greetings, my sister Suzanne, very powerful sister who is a painter, an author, a poet, a performer. I mean, the list is endless, but I want you to share just a short introduction of what you do and, you know, your views. Today we're going to basically come and get deeper, but it's just to give people an overview about who Suzanne is. Suzanne is like is it like the painter Suzanne?
Yeah.
Oh wow,
yeah.
Wonderful. Okay.
Well, my background is basically, and the reason why I wrote my book is to do with religion coming out of Christianity into spirituality, and writing my novel Journey of a Sister to share my story, and then finding out that so many women could relate to it, really just reminding us of who we are as Black women, and didn't realize that it would get me into trouble writing about what I was sharing in my book. But I will talk about that later, because I had no idea anything about targeted individuals and people would come after you. I just thought I could share my knowledge, you know. And listening to your program from yesterday with Natalie Moore, just made. Can you hear me?
Yes, if you talk up as much as possible, though.
Okay, just hearing Natalie Moore's story on your last show just made me think, yes, you know, it really validated, you know, what I've been through, and to know that there are other people who have gone through similar experiences of being targeted for whatever reason, you know. But I think for me it was because I was influencing a lot of people to change their mind and to remember who we are as Black people. So yes, I'll share a little bit more later about that.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. And we're going to come to our brother Wadada. Greetings, Wadada. Wadada is a wonderful, powerful musician, saxophonist, jazz musician. Actually, I have to say this about you, Wadada, because we've hung out a lot. And Wadada is one of the few musicians that I know that I can actually literally say, play Carpenters, We've Only Just Begun, or play any song, you think of any song and you ask Wadada, and within 5 seconds he plays it back, and that
Yeah,
is an
yeah.
achievement. To be able to do that as a musician is a great skill. So greetings, I'm so proud to have you with us today, Wadada. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
So
thank
you
you.
want
Thank
to
you as
talk a
well.
little bit about yourself?
Well, apart from I'm a devoted musician and I just love it basically. It makes me happy. I've always wanted to do it. And the things that I used to do before, I still do them in terms of the exercise and the health, very devoted to my health and eating good and so on and so forth. But really, you kind of hit it on the nail basically.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. So
You're welcome.
today what we're going to be covering is getting just, expanding upon our experiences of people of color, melanated people, what they term as Black people. We know this is an invention. The term Black is something that came to be in the 1800s. And actually, it was designed to move us away from the landmass and to stigmatize and demonize us as a people. And, our experiences are coming to the forefront with the Black Lives Matter and the killing of George Floyd. George Floyd, as we all know, is one of many millions of people, and sadly it's, to 2020, and racism is a major problem worldwide for us as a royal, majestic people of color. We're all very talented. This is why this panel is such an eclectic panel, but it's so creative, it's so rich. Everybody here is rich with creativity, and are very, their work is expansive. If we talk about Sophia's work, her work has changed paradigms. Everybody uses the word matrix now, and that is because of this beautiful melanated, powerful melanated sister. Now, the other day, just to highlight of the latest news, and then I'll get your feedback, and I'm going to start with you, Sophia. We had Prince Harry a few days ago, who basically apologized for institutional racism on behalf of his wife, Meghan, which is quite commendable, I have to say, for him to come forward and actually apologize for the fact that it is racist. And he said, one of the things that he said, which was very important, was, you're going to have to show us. He said, it's up to we as people of color to show them how things should be. We're the ones to lead this conversation. We're the ones to bring about change, which was very true. The reality is that these people who have oppressed us for centuries cannot show us about racism. We are the ones that have to assert ourselves and change the way that it has been for far too long. And there was also the Archbishop of Canterbury, over the last week. He has said that the white Jesus statues have to come down. Now, that is an admittance that Jesus, which we know was not called Jesus, Yeshua, was more likely to be the correct name, that was a melanated Black man. So we know that within religion, within education, within every single sphere of existence, wherever we are, they have created white versions of the truth. Even with me, when they robbed me of my my copyrights, they stole my work, my intellectual property, they actually gave a blonde girl my name, Charlie 7. And I couldn't believe it at the time. I'm a musician, as some people know. I'm a guitarist and a bass player. I produce music. Music is huge to me, just like Wadada. However, I was shocked. After they stole everything from me, they gave my identity to a blonde girl. So this is typical of what they do. It's the same as Yeshua. They gave it to, they got is it Michelangelo to create the Sistine Chapel and create the white Jesus within the Council of Nicaea. Most of us know about these stories, but fortunately it's become front page. We've also had this badge, which is the highest medal of honor, which depicts a white angel crushing the neck of a black man. So this is what we have. We've also, in the news recently, we had Lloyd's of London have agreed to pay us reparations, including Green King. Is it Greens? I can't remember the name, but there's two banking institutions who have now agreed to pay us reparations after hundreds and hundreds of years. And we're seeing, on the other hand, there was a story yesterday that came out with two police officers that did selfies with two dead black women, which has been on the front cover. I don't know if anybody else has seen that. There is other reports of people being attacked because of racism. So there's a lot of things that are coming out. So I'm going to start with you, Sister Sophia, and get your perspective on this and your experience as a royal melanated visionary, and how you have been received in regards to your amazing work.
Well, first of all, I want to say that it was intentionally done. The Vatican is the one that gave Michelangelo, and he paid Michelangelo, they did, the Vatican, during the Renaissance period to whitewash everything. And that include history, that include everything to do with people of color. So it's not something that just happened overnight, or no, this has been going on for a long, long time. It even go back to ancient Kemet, Egypt, where they went in during the 30s and they started painting the pharaohs white. It all goes back to the Book of the Dead, which is the actual real Bible. So the Bibles that you're looking at now and reading are not the real Bibles. It goes to the Book of the Dead, the Book of the Living. And everything has been whitewashed. You had black and brown bread. It became white bread. It's like glue with no nutrients. We had brown sugar cane, which became white sugar, refined sugar. Even the void was black before light became a part, or came upon the light, light came upon the void. It goes back into the Bible. So when you look at everything, we had 7 black presidents here in America, and which is called a black house, before it got burnt down, and they created another one, which is called the White House, and painted it white. There was Black Wall Street, Rosewood, Oklahoma, and they came in with the Ku Klux Klansmen and said that a 17-year-old teenage girl got raped, and they came in and they burnt and they took all the black people's monies and homes and businesses and killed one of the greatest surgeons. And this was all by design. It's always been by design, to take over the legacy of a people, a certain race, I would call God's children. I'm calling it God's children because God's children are 3-dimensional beings. And because they're 3-dimensional beings, they're able to create. And these other beings who are not able to create, that's the reason they hate. That is the reason for the hate, because of the gift of creativity and a lack of creativity. And so so it all goes back, is by design. History was changed. All of these statues that everybody is pulling down, it's kept racism going for many, many years, because when the North and the South had their war in 1865, here in America, the Ku Klux Klansmen were law enforcement. It was the very people uphold the law on the sheets. And they were stealing not only creativity, but free labor, free everything, kidnapping all over the whole globe, not just the continent Africa, as they call it, because it is not called Africa. That's a white man's name, Africanus. And it's just like you calling yourself Toby instead of Kuti Kente. It's just like you calling yourself Cassius Clay instead of Muhammad Ali. It's like you're putting yourself owned by the plantation. And that's what people do. You're born in America, some of you, and you should call yourself an American. But people think that other labels make them important. So they use labels to distinguish, but all labels do is separate people. And they don't realize that. They think it gives them a superiority, but it doesn't give you any superiority, because the math, subtraction and division divides and subtraction separates. And God was all about multiplication and addition, multiplying and adding, creating and building. So all of this racism and this hate is by design, and designed by people who created a fake history. So all of what you've been living is nothing but a lie, is the Matrix. That's why the Matrix have been so phenomenal. The people who adapted to work to the screen, they didn't steal the copyrights, because just like you stole a car, you stole the car, but the title is in the owner's name. So the title is in my name. I own, and always have owned, the Matrix and Terminator. All of the stuff on the internet has just been a bunch of lies to confuse people. And that's all people have been doing, is confusing people. And people are coming out of that confusion finally. And they need to come out of the ignorance and the confusion, because they need to see the truth for what it is. The whole history of America is nothing but a lie and a sham.
Absolutely. So do you think, because you're a melanated person, that this is part of the reason that they don't want anybody to know, you know, that they've been so oppressive and suppressive on this truth? Why do you think it is that they don't want the mass populace to be aware that it's a genius, melanated sci-fi writer, a visionary? Why don't they want the general populace to know that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, this so-called people, I don't know who they are, because it has nothing to do with white skin, has everything to do with white privilege, but it has nothing to do with white skin. There are many, many Black people that have white skin and they're passing for whites. And there are many, many people with dark skin that have white DNA. So it is not the cover of your skin, no, because I think a lot of people who are passing for white, they hate themselves because of being who they are. And I think it all started during the fall from the light side to the dark side. It has to do with the fallen angels who fell, a third of them who fell here, and they saw God's children. And they were jealous of God's children because they had the knowledge of God and they were indestructible, but yet they had no free will. So it all began with this free will, because that's what this whole war against good versus evil. It's not so much people warring against people. It's really evil versus good. And it all started when a third of these angels fell here and they got jealous of God's three-dimensional children. They had no penis, so that's where the homosexuality comes in, and the penis envious comes in, and the fact that they could not procreate. That was another factor that they hated God's children, because God's children had the matrix. Matrix is a 7,000-year-old Latin word for the woman's womb. her stargate, her portal to bring babies into this world. They had to create their children through the laboratories. You think about that, clones and drones, machines, hybrids, hybrid foods, hybrid animals, hybrid insects, flowers. So it has to do with the hate of God's children.
Right.
That's where this all really began. Now, everything else that people talk about kind of confuse the issue a little bit. And if you don't stay focused on the truth, you'll start hating and start tit for tat and start actually performing the same way that these third of these angels that fell here. And
Right.
their children is mankind or a kind of man, but they're not living souls or
Go on.
seeds.
Yes.
And this is
Yeah.
what this whole war is really, really about here.
Yes, yes.
Wadada, can you
Lies.
mute your microphone? Sorry, Sophia. Sorry, Wadada, can you mute your microphone for me,
Yeah.
please?
Sorry.
Yeah, I can see you're feeling what Sophia's saying. It's beautiful. But just to so that everybody can hear, because she's saying some powerful knowledge right here. It's just on the side. Can you find it? It's just a little microphone. It's at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Sorry, left-hand side of the screen. What am I saying? If you look at the bottom left of the screen, you'll see a mute button. If you just click it, it's not clicked. Oh, okay. All right, Sophia, sorry about that.
Oh,
That
that's
was
okay.
very powerful, very powerful. I wanted to ask you if you'd like to share what your experience has been in terms of like the mechanism of how they have obstructed you from actually being known for your powerful work. What sort of things have you experienced?
Well, I have not been obstructed. A lot of stuff that people read on the internet is just a lot of troll stuff, lies and innuendos and stuff. I've never been obstructed because I know the truth. It's my work. I own it by copyrights. I sell it. There's nothing you can do about a lie. That's what people don't understand. A lie has no power. It's nothing but illusionary. It's just like Chris Angel, Copperfield, or Houdini. All you can do is create illusions, and people, well, some of them believe in these illusions. It just depends on how real the illusions seem to them. It's just witchcraft. But people who know the truth, every lie has to bow down to the truth. That's the law. That's the law of God. And when you know the laws of God, there is no one that can defeat you. No one can stop you from your purpose. And all of this stuff that you read on the internet, they've not done any of this stuff to me. They've never threatened me like they've done and hurt and harmed Tupac or Michael Jackson or Prince. I never got involved with the devil or got into the devil's business. I stuck to God's business. He gave me this message, the Matrix and Terminator, to give the world, to free people out of bondage and ignorance. And that's what I've done. And I've lined my purpose or will with his will. And that's why I've been very, very successful. I've not been barred. I've not been treated. The only thing that they have done is lied to people to get their money. Like, just like somebody is selling you an Apple Jack and they put it in an Apple box. And when you open up the box, and they sell it for Apple prices, and when you open up the box, you got jacked. They've been giving people generics. Like a generic is just like the word cola, it's a generic. I can't sell you Pepsi Cola or Coca-Cola if I own it, but I can sell you a cola and put it in a Coca-Cola can or a Pepsi can, and when you taste it, you're like, oh my God, you were charged all this money and you didn't get Pepsi and you didn't get Coke. So all they've been doing is lying and devastating their own selves. They've not harmed me. because you can only get what you give. If you give people lies, you get back lies. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. If you uphold and glorify God, then he upholds and glorifies you. Whatever you are to God, that's what he'll be to you. So people need to recognize that they have not harmed me, have never threatened me. All they've done, the harm that I do not like, is the lies that they tell you guys out there. You guys coming back with ignorance about credit. There's no such thing as credit. Yes, it's a such thing as recognition, but all of that comes from the history of the courts. When you file a lawsuit, you're going into the courts for damages. You're not going into the courts to prove if you own something. The judge and everyone involved already know who owns what. Before you go in there, you have to enter in your proof of ownership so you can claim your damages, yes. But the people who are going up against you, they're thieves. They're paying to stay out of jail. So they're not gonna go into court because they're gonna get arrested. That's why I always went into federal courts, because the federal is connected to the FBI, the Department of Justice, which is called the DOJ. It's all connected to law enforcement. But again, like I told you, if you go back into history and you look at the very people who were harming God's children, these three-dimensional beings were the ones breaking the law, and they had to hide behind the sheets. So now what you're seeing in the media is still their afterwork. When the war was over in the Union Jack, because see, the real war was never about freeing God's children. That just became a part of the campaign so they could elicit more help from others, or, you know, a more patriotic feel to it to get others to come in and participate. The real war was about the North and the South being angry about economics. The South used to be very, very poor until they started free labor, slavery. And
Can you say that
North
again?
was very, very wealthy because they fought. The South used to be very, very poor because of economics.
Right. Okay, now we're losing you. The
And
sound
the
is
North was
Sophia,
very,
we're losing you a
very
little bit. The signal
rich.
is really bad. Can
But
everybody
what
hear what
happened was the
Sophia?
North,
Sophia,
that has nothing to do with me. Yes, I can hear you.
you
That has nothing to do with me. Whatever's going on.
it's cutting out. So we're not getting the fullness of what you're saying, I'm afraid. So just bear with us. I want to ask everybody, can you hear Sophia all right, or is it just me? I want to know. Just
Yeah, she's cutting out as well. Yeah.
she is cutting out. Okay, you're cutting out a little bit, Sophia. So what we're going to do is, I don't know if you can move your device or to see if you can get a better signal somehow, just to tweak it around a bit, because sometimes some of what the words you're saying is cutting out. The general gist of what you're saying, we're getting it loud and clear, but just every so often you might cut out. So what I want to do, I want to talk to Imani for a bit, and we're going to come back to you. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so we're going to speak to Kemet of Stop the Silence. Can you unmute, please, Kemet? Okay, greetings, my sister. Now, you heard Sophia. What say you? Obviously, for you to have set up an organization called Stop the Silence, there was a motive behind that. Obviously, there hasn't been enough of a dialogue about this situation. What say you?
Well, Stop the Silence was birthed out of a social media show what myself and a sister called Jeanette has, that's called Two Rail. And we spoke out about the atrocities and the xenophobia going in the world about from other races on our people, and then the whole Chinese issue and how they was treating our brothers and sisters from the motherland in China, and that video went viral. So out of that, we've started to speak out and take more on board of other people's issues with regards to yourself, Sister Sophia Stewart, anyone that has been going through it, because it is racism. We know it's racism, and as Sister Sophia said, we always knew it's because of our creativity. We are very, very creative people by nature. Everybody else are very, very good copiers. They're the master copiers. They can copy anything we do to a T, but to originate it, that's a total different ball game. And just to get back on the Prince Harry thing, I'll be very, very quick. Although I think you said, I don't know the whole issue around that, but I did hear what you said, and somebody else brought it to me today as well. And the fact that he's saying it's for us to do it. We've been trying to do it for over 400 years. We've held uprisings. We've done petitions. We've done boycotts. We've done keep the black pound. It's not for us now. It's for them and the powers to be to take the responsibility, give us our reparations, stand up for the mass genocide and xenophobia, what they put on our people, take responsibility and do something about it. It's not for us. We've been doing it from day dot, from on the plantation, from being in Mama Africa, and with the uprisings that we had there to stop these people from enslaving us. We've been fighting ever since. So it's not for us. So him saying that to me is an insult, because it's like we've been sitting back and just not doing anything. We've done every single thing what we can, even praying on the Most High and the ancestors day in and day out. It's for them to take responsibility now. You know, otherwise there's going to be more and more uprisings, because you only get positive results through revolution, as far as I'm concerned.
So what do you think about Archbishop of Canterbury now announcing, and I want to ask you this as well, Sophia, I'll come back to you to ask you this, but what do you think, Kemet, about them now saying that the white Jesus statues have to be removed? This was stated by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and obviously the legacy of the whole thing about Jesus and Christianity actually came from Kemet. What would you say about that?
I think it's all a facade, because they're not doing it to give us the respect or to honor to say that Jesus or Yeshua was black. There's nothing to do with that. What it is now, they've got this whole thing in the denominations, especially in Christianity, whereby you're not allowed to use icons. So in the churches, you're not seeing the crosses, you're not seeing the pictures of Jesus or anybody else. So it's all part of that game. It's not because they all of a sudden have respect for us or they want to prove that Yeshua was an African, you know. It's nothing to do with that. Not in my humble opinion. I don't think it has anything to do with us. Like Sister Sophia said, these people are a fallen set of people. They're demonic by nature. They cannot be what they are. They only be in themselves. They cannot be anything other than what they are. So they're never going to do anything in the name of righteousness or in the name of truth. They haven't got it in them.
So do you see what's happening now as lip service?
Most definitely. They'll do it, they'll take it down, but not because they're honouring us or giving us any form of respect. It's just because the whole dynamics of the ascension that's happening now is changing everything. Nothing to do with them. So I refuse to give credit to any of them.
Right.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to come to Sister Suzanne and what you feel about what we've said in terms of the whole shift of consciousness. We are in the spotlight all of a sudden. I mean, obviously it is by design, but at the same time, we know that Black Lives Matter is funded by George Soros. We know that it's actually they have another agenda in the use of the whole term Black Lives Matter. All right. I read something about somebody being abused in a hotel, and one of the woman, one of the attackers said to this black woman, who I think she didn't have any water in her hotel room, she called them up, and then before she knew it, she was being called a monkey, she was being called all kinds of names, and they said to her, Black Lives Matters, but yours doesn't. You know, so you know, that was, I saw that in WhatsApp today. So I wanted to ask you, Suzanne, in your experience, you're an artist, you're also a fellow creator, you're a painter, and you've expressed being targeted. You know, you define you resonate with those of us who have been in the front row being targeted. What say you about this whole situation right now? I think on some level, it has given a voice to a lot of people who have been in fear of speaking. There are people that said they have never spoken out about these things before, but they now see it essential. It's almost like they feel like there's a license for them to be able to speak. So what say you, Suzanne?
Well, firstly, let me just thank you for inviting me onto this show, because honestly, it's like a manifestation. Like, just the last 2 blogs I wrote mentioned the film The Matrix. And now I'm sitting here on a call with the creator of The Matrix. And the reason why this is really important is because very recently I wrote a blog about everything that's going on. Personally, I have not paid it any mind whatsoever, because I feel like they're feeding off our emotions again. It's like, we are naturally very emotional people, very spiritual and very emotional, and they know how to trigger those emotions. And I personally feel that this is a time for us to really go within and to create, because that's what we do, our version of heaven on earth. This is what my blog was about. And the reason I mentioned The Matrix, I was talking about Neo. I need to ask Sophia if she did this when she wrote it, if this is what she meant, because I got the revelation that Neo was an acronym for one, like we are the one. We, the collective consciousness, are the one. So like you said, we shouldn't be looking to anybody to save us. We have to save ourselves. So it's our collective consciousness that they are using to try to bring in their new world order of this one world currency, one world religion. I really don't get the whole pulling down of the white Jesus statues. But very recently, I did a video, which is now on my Instagram. It was the burning ritual, where we burnt the image of the white Jesus, because this is symbolic. Like, these people, if you can call them people, whenever they wanted to erase history, they always burnt things down and then replaced it with their version of history. So because this white Jesus has been ingrained into our subconscious, the ritual, it's actually a real ritual where you burn the image, and in order to help to erase it from our subconscious, because it's done a lot of damage to our psyche, which is all mentioned in my book.
So why do you think it has done damage? Do you mean because they perverted the image of somebody that was melanated and turned it white? Are you specifically talking about that, or are you talking about the doctrine around it?
Well, not only did they change it from black to white, they understood the power of the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind responds best to images. So if you show someone an image of a white savior over and over again, the subconscious mind will eventually just believe that, okay, the white man is our savior. So now, as it mentioned in my book, it's called the white savior syndrome, where we feel like we cannot do anything without white intervention, you know, and that is how the white man has been able to put himself in such a position of power with this white savior image. And so that's why I say it's done damage to our psyche, because we're the main people following these religions that they created, which they stole, as usual, from the ancient manuscripts, which they stole from ancient Kemet, and then created these holy books and literally turned our religion against us. So in my book, Journey of a Sister, it just talks about this whole journey of how Christianity and religions were constructed and why they were constructed and the damage they have done to us. So I just feel that the whole thing that's going on now with Black Lives Matter, it's not something that we started. They've started it by the George Floyd incident, by, you know, they just continuously show us these images, which it triggers us. And then they go and start burning things down, because that's what they do. And we join in, and then it gets blamed on us. And so personally, and which is why I wrote the blog, and which is why I talked about the Matrix, is we have to realize that we are Neo, we are the one, and we cannot look to anyone to save us. We have to become Neo, the collective consciousness. We have to become that Neo. And what happened with him? Eventually, he learned how to dodge the bullets. He learned how to, you know, he went through a lot to get to that place. And the other thing that I remember from the Matrix, which it's just so personal to me now. Neo, they knew who he was before he knew who he was. You know, they were sending him messages through his computer, turning up at his workplace, you know, and I kind of felt like that was happened to me, because last year I nearly died. So when I was watching your show from yesterday, how they have technology which can make you almost kill yourself. So many people have died, you were saying. And literally that almost happened to me. If I didn't have so many people praying for me, I probably would have died, you know.
Wow.
But I've experienced voice of God technology. I've experienced, you know, that particular morning where I nearly killed myself, I just woke up with this urge to kill myself. And it's like I had to carry it out, you know. But
Wow.
I had learnt about psychic attacks and voice to skull technology a couple of years previously. I'd been shut down in 2016. I don't know what technology they used on me, but I was literally lured into the garden at 4 o'clock in the morning. And by 7 o'clock in the morning, it was as if I'd been zapped to about 15 years ago, before I started doing any work on myself, just flooded with negative thoughts and feelings. And also I noticed that they shut me down creatively. Whereas before I was channeling and getting lots of downloads and visions for 3 years, from 2016, 17, 18, nothing was coming through. I don't know what they used on me, but I'm a very highly creative person. And whatever happened that night, nothing was coming through. So then I started doing the self-love retreat, because I thought I've got to do something. So I started doing retreats in the Gambia. And then I was setting up a retreat home. And when I got back to England to put all my stuff on the container, I came under such a big attack. It was gradual from September to December. And eventually, apart from everything just crumbling with that project, I almost killed myself.
Wow.
And ended up in a psychiatric ward.
Wow.
But
I actually do remember, because Brother Clyde did tell me about it. And then, I mean, I think when people found out about the phenomena of targeted melanated women, he was saying to me, a few people said, we think that Cezanne has been targeted as well. And it makes sense that you resonate with what Natalie said. Now I'm going to come to you, Wadada, but I want to ask Sophia a question, because you asked the question of Sophia about whether it was I know the answer to it, but I want to give Sophia the opportunity to answer it herself. So your question was is it an acronym of the one, and is the second question about the collective, or was that your perception of it? Yeah. Sophia, what say you?
I wrote The Second Coming of the Christ, The Evolutions of Consciousness, Man versus the Machine. So Jesus was the only one called the One by John, the Revelator. So yes, it is an anagram for the One, Neo, Neoone, one and the same. JC, John Connors, Jesus Christ, grows up to be Neo, one and the same in the Matrix. Matrix, like I said, is a Latin word for the woman's womb, the Stargate, the portal, come out of the King James's Bible, mentioned 5 times in Scripture, 3 times in Exodus, 2 times in Numbers. And yes, I'm talking about the collective whole. They were all one and the same collective whole. And if you guys had read the books that the movies came from, because the movies didn't come before the books came before the movie.
That's
And the
right.
books didn't come before me. I came before the books because I wrote them. And they're derivatives, the movies. And when you saw Matrix 2 and 3, Reloaded was the rebellion in the book. Revolution was revolution in the book. And I created the characters, the graphics, the special effects, the dialogue, I'll be back. All of that came out of my book. Now, like they said, the problem with Black people or people of color is they don't read. The first thing that someone white will do is if they know about the book, they're going to go get the book and read it first before they see the movie. If they know about the movie, they're going to see the movie. And then if they find out about the book, they're going to go and read it. So they'll have a complete picture. But the injustice that I've experienced is from my own people. Like God says, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. They're distracted because of a lack of knowledge. They're taken advantage of because of a lack of knowledge. They're enslaved and killed because of a lack of knowledge. Everyone you see this. Well, the distraction, just like the other lady was saying earlier, all of this is a distraction to keep you from seeing the truth, because they're whitewashing 2 and 3 Matrix is whitewashed. The other Terminators, after the first 2 Terminators, the original work, first Matrix, original work, won 4 Oscars. Then when you get to 2 and 3 Matrix and you get to 3, 4, 5, and 6 Terminators, they're all whitewashed, garbage. That's all garbage.
Because they came away from the source. Now, Dada, I want to bring you in.
It's not that they came away from the source. They didn't come away from anything. Let me explain something to you. When someone does a moving picture, just like you have your phone and you go videotape something right now, that's called a moving picture. But you have to video something, it's a source work. You didn't, doesn't mean you created the source work because you're taking a picture of it. The same way you take one picture, it's a still. So when people go and they make pictures out of source work, they didn't create anything. Doing
That's
a video, filming something is not creating, it's copying. That's what a film is. It's a copy of the source work. When you take a picture of somebody, that's a copy of the living person. So I'm getting kind of like, can't believe that people on earth can be fooled, because if Michael Jackson was still here, he would still be creating, and he would topple everything he's done because he's creating. Now, all people can do, because he's gone, all people can do since he's gone is copy him, imitate him. That's it. They can't they can't go past imitation. They can't go past copying. They won't come up with nothing new because they're not him. You would have to be a Picasso right now. I want to tell people, because they need to know. You can go right now to an old house and find a copy of a Picasso painting. You can take that painting and erase Picasso's name and put your name on it and go sell it for $100 million. But when it comes to toppling that painting or going past that, you won't be able to do it. People will be waiting for the next one, and there won't be a next one, because you're not that creator. You're not that. When a creator dies, his gifts go with him.
That's exactly
And
it.
people
That's what I
need to
mean.
know that.
That's what I meant by saying they came away from the source. You are the source. So they
Yes.
didn't, you are the source. And so in order to get the true download with the potency coming fresh from the source, they would have to come back to you. They can't get it from, that's why 1, 2, it started to get diluted as the new versions of it started, you know, the 3, 4, and 5 or whatever, because it wasn't you. That's
right.
the reality of it. That's the reality.
It's nothing it's nothing but garbage, and all it is tearing down, shooting, and killing and destroying. That's all.
Yes,
It has
what they are about.
It has no metaphysics, because what I brought was science, because I'm a polymath, a visionary. So I'm talking about body scanners, food scanners, computerized warfare with drones, simulation, all of that in 1980 while I'm at USC. And I don't get any downloads, or I don't do any witchcraft or any automatic writing or any Ouija boards or any of that. I have a natural gift that comes out of my DNA, a polymath, because you create with math. That's why all engineers, all architects, all inventors, creators create with mathematics.
Wow, that's very true, very true. Now I want to bring Wadada in here. Wadada, what say you, Wadada? I mean, your experience as you know, creative. You're a musician. You're somebody that obviously you read and write music as well, so you can relate to what she's saying about mathematics, I'm sure. But what say you with this whole time that we're living in, with Black Lives Matter and the whole racial? Because I mean, I listened to, I was in a shop and they had the TV on in the shop. We were in a cafe and they had the TV on and they were talking about apologizing for racism and etc. etc. What say you? Do you see that this is a change, or do you, from my perspective, when they returned the crown on the 20th of February, they acknowledged the changing of the guard. Their time is done. They've created looting, pillaging, abuse on this planet for too long. They've created misery and suffering for unnecessarily. So what say you, Wadada? Thank you.
Well, boy, I'm just listening. I'm kind of grateful for coming in. I'm glad I came. And I just want to say that, you know, the speaker's definitely powerful. I wanted to open my mouth all the time, but you know, it's just definitely powerful. And I just really want to add that these people are dealing with witchcraft, as the lady said, you know,
Yes.
definitely. And one of the things that they're doing is working on the black man and the black woman. They don't want us to come together. Yeah, the masculine and the feminine. They don't want us, even if, you know, for us to have a gathering, you know, especially if it's a gathering and it's positive. They don't want that to happen. But you know, the thing about it is that we can't really focus on what they want, because these people are dealing with their ancestors, ancestral worship, and their ancestors have done good for them, but they haven't done good for us. We need to deal with our ancestors. One thing I used to do back in the day, I used to love watching slavery films, not because I like to see my own people suffer, because all the time I used to watch these things, I just used to say to myself, never again. And I had a problem with working for people, because I haven't really worked for anybody. All I've done is try to create my own. If it wasn't running my own business, it was doing martial arts. Now it's music, what I've always wanted to do, you know. So the key is with us. We need to heal each other. We need to start telling our sisters that we love them, even if we're gonna look like fools when we say that. What is he after? You know what I'm saying? But that's very important for us to start telling one another that we love each other and start healing, because the healing is gonna come from us. When our women have a child, we need to be, you know, dealing with that child, bringing forth that child from that woman via ourselves. You understand? Those are the things we need to. We can't let these people be taking our blood and knowing, because blood carries frequency. That's why they can manipulate us, because if they understand what kind of blood type we are, or whatever the case may be, they can manipulate that. So it's very important that we start dealing and loving ourselves. I just, when I get too emotional, I start kind of cursing off, and I don't want to do that, to be honest.
Please don't do that.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. But all I'm just saying is that it's just so important for us to start cherishing one another.
It's
very
true.
important, because that's what they're
Very
dealing
true.
with. The mere fact telling us against one another, the black man, because that's how we come about, by coming together, and that's what they're working on.
Absolutely. So what do you think about this whole push to vaccinate us first? What do you think that's about?
Well, you see, the thing about it, that's just the next agenda, because they know that something serious is going to happen, and the children are they know exactly what's happening. They need to vaccinate us in order for their agenda to sort of like, whatever they want to sort of like come through. That's just the next stage. They need to do that, but that's not going to happen.
So how do you think that, because this is about ending racism, what do you feel has to happen in order for racism to be terminated, and how do we proceed? But before you answer that question, let me look at the timeline as well. Alfred, where are we in terms of the time? How long have we been speaking?
Yeah, let me just get that for you. In this segment, we have about 30 minutes to go in this segment, and I'll come up, and then we can just start a new segment.
Okay, so tell me, what say you about how do we? And I'm going to put that question to everybody. Right now, we're hearing the conversation. People are addressing it. We know a lot of it is lip service, but how do we, from your perspective, how do we end the abuse and the terror and the murders? How do we end that?
I really feel that that it's, especially our women, right? There's something about when women talk to us as men, how they can really kind of.
Can you speak up, please, Wadada? You're a bit quiet.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, what I'm saying, there's something about when our women talk to us as men, and we start forming that group to start going out there and start, just like when these people going out there and they start voting, we start going out on the street, or even if via media, and we start trying to form a kind of like, even if it's on, August, the day when we come together to do with slavery, but it's got to be done them kind of ways in terms of, I don't know, I'm not no master of it, but all I'm just trying to say is that, something, I don't know, I'm just getting caught up now, you know what I mean? But
well, thank you. That's okay. Can you move your camera, because your half of your face is gone on the camera. Thank you, Wadada. I want to bring that question to Sophia. How do you feel that we end racism?
It's not about race, like in the Matrix, like there is no spoon, you're just bending the energy. There are no races. All these labels and programs and lies that they've been telling you, that's the problem. You need to end, it's evil versus good. And you have to love to destroy evil. You have to love. And right. It's not about a war, because that's on a evolution. That's on an evolutionary level of being an animal, because animals, they destroy, they kill, they eat to survive. And we are beings with free will. And we're greater. So we should not be on this level of animal level.
That's
And
right.
you have to elevate. You have to elevate, because the ones who are promoting all of this, these distractions, this ignorance, these lies, they are the ones, this George Soros and Bill Gates and all these people. It's all about, you know, a bunch of pedophilism, a bunch of homosexuality, a bunch of witchcraft, a bunch magic, illusions, just their world. The Prince, they all, Andrew, they all been into this for many, many years. 13 blood families, Illuminatis. They make money off of war. They make money off of ignorance. They make money off of killing. They don't make money off of healing, love, you know, because you can't make any money off of something that God has given you freely.
Mm.
So you have to wake up consciously and be aware that anybody that does the same thing that they're doing, you become part of it. If somebody's giving evil and you repay evil with evil, then you become evil itself. So it grows, it keeps going.
Mm.
If
That's
it's
right.
hate, if you're hating, then it keeps going. And so it is no end to it, because you can't see someone as your enemy. You have to see someone as you. And if you want to make a change, then you need to change yourself. This is about the man in the mirror that Michael Jackson was singing about. It
Wow.
has everything to do about you. And if you need to change you, who you are, and then everybody will see what you are and they will follow. They will emulate.
The sound is being
It's about
distorted.
love. It's not about hate. It's not
Sophia,
about killing.
the sound is distorted again. Sorry. Can you repeat what you said? Because the sound was
I have
distorted
nothing
again.
to. I have nothing to do. I have nothing to do with whatever. I was talking about evil versus good. And
Right.
that if you want to overcome evil, then you have to love and do away with hate. You have to stop coming back to wars, because it's not about a war. Those are distractions. What you see going on right now, all these distractions and ignorance, is to do you in, to have you to do yourself in. That's what's going on right now.
Right. So what do you think about them using us for these vaccines, and they're saying that the black people have to be vaccinated first? This is they've been pushing
That was what I was talking about in my work, the Matrix. It's about putting chips in you. If you read Matrix 4, you would know all about this. If people heard my interviews, they would know all about this. When they swab your DNA, they're going to make a database, and you don't have to have any physical passports anymore. They will have all your DNA. They can kill you and clone you and control you. It's about putting a chip in you. That's what it's all about. Everybody knows the truth. This has been going on for a long time. Yet some people want to be a part of it, like Cypher. Some people are betrayals, 30 pieces of silver.
Absolutely.
Some people want to be a part of it, and no, they're not eating steak, they're eating mush, but they want to be a part of the lie. They glorify the lie.
Sorry,
They
you're like
fight against the Matrix. They fight against the Matrix. That's the way it is.
That's right.
Well, I'm that is not me doing anything.
Sophia, your sound is going a little bit distorted, so I'm going to come on.
I'm not doing anything to stop you from hearing the truth. If something is going on,
yeah, something is they're messing with your sound, it appears. So Kemet, same question to you. You know, how do you think we end racism? What is the solution?
What I always say in terms of the Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Can you speak a bit closer to the mic?
No different from what I always say in the words of the mighty Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Okay, so I think that's the first start. And anytime we talk about race, we always think it's about, if we try to emancipate ourselves, or we, you know, we're trying to hate on other people, and it's about love, and it's about this. We love too much. We love so much. And I always say, if other races were as loving and as apologetic as we are forgiving, the world would be a better place starting from day one. So I think the only way things are going to change if we start by loving ourselves, as Sister Sophia said, and only when we have that unity and love amongst ourselves, then can we think about transferring that to other people. I think it starts with self. And Marcus Garvey states, up you mighty.
Sorry, there's a bit of interference. I don't know where that's coming from. Can everybody mute their microphone, please? Because there's some interference while Kenneth is speaking. I don't know where that sound is coming from. Can you mute your mic, Suzanne? And are you muted?
Once again, as Marcus Messiah Garvey said, up you mighty race, you can accomplish whatever you will. So it's time we get up and we focus on self and we put race first. It's not going against anybody. You can have, you know, people think when you're a racist that you hate white people. So you'd have, or like white people would hate black people. It doesn't mean they hate us. But you can have white people that's like a white woman with a black man and she's innately racist. That doesn't mean that she hates black men. But she's not going to give up her white privilege because she's about race first. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if that quite
Can you explain that so that we...
In the respect of, I don't see anything wrong with people being about race first.
1 second. Sophia, can you mute your microphone, please? There's some sound.
Okay.
Thank you, sis. Go ahead, Imani.
Yeah, I was
saying Imani.
All right. Being a racist doesn't necessarily mean that you hate, like say a white racist person doesn't mean necessarily that they hate blacks. I don't think racist means necessarily you hate black people, you hate Asians if you're a white person or any other race, okay? But you have an allegiance to your race, like a white woman could be of a black man and she could be racist, but she doesn't hate the black man that she's with. Do you understand what I'm saying? But she's not going to give up her white privilege because she's about race first when it comes to her own. So she has an allegiance to a race, but she doesn't necessarily hate the black man that she's with.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Jane Elliott? Have you ever heard of the work of Jane Elliott?
I studied her years ago. Brown eye, blue eye experiment.
Yes. And are you referring to that, or?
Well, I'm not necessarily referring to that, but I totally agree with her that she claims that all white people are racist because it's something that's innate with them, within the DNA, and it's passed down through whatever. Because, have you ever met a white person, let's just use white people as a race, that's decided to give up their white privilege, any form of white privilege for us? I've
met many people that are white that have been very, very helpful to me, I have to say.
Difference.
Very, very. And I want to say this because I know people that put their neck on the line for me. Alfred is one of them. I would say Tony Farrell, because at the time when he did the Farrell report, there was a lot of people telling him, why are you going to help that black woman? You know, and he had a lot of people coming at him left, right and center not to do it. And he lost a lot of friends because he helped me. And so I've met people who would definitely it wasn't about me being black. It was about, this was a truth that had to be told. And it was about, like Sophia said, good versus evil. You know, this truth affected many, many people. And he didn't, as somebody who considered himself a Bible believing Christian, he still does, I believe, he didn't want to go against his conscience. And I've met people along the way who have been white that have said, you know, because it became about the truth. However, I've met also people who are white and look at me with hatred just because of the color of my skin. I've met them in the judiciary. I would say that there's a lot of people in the policing forces that are institutionally racist. That's why, even though my cousin has been poisoned, not one of them has come forward to, they know that I've been terrorized. They know that our family died in Grenfell Tower. They know everything. However, the institutional racism means that they will never want any form of, they don't want this situation to be resolved. I would say that that is institutionally racist. Somebody has been murdered. My cousin Ronnie has been murdered. They know he's been murdered. Not one of them have come forward, and they cover it up because there's a lot of people on the gravy train. They're all living off our wealth. Now, as you pointed out, racism is structural. It's a glass ceiling that prevents us. They don't want us to be wealthy. And they actually, there are people who believe that we are not entitled to our own, what we create, our own labor. So I see racism, particularly in the UK. I think the UK is probably the most institutional racist country in the whole world. This is the belly of the beast. And from here, it's because we know these are the three superpowers, the City of London, Washington, DC, and the Vatican. So we know that part of the problem, I mean, for me, if anything happens to any of us, we can go to the police will not listen. They will never come forward to help, not one of us. When I saw the photograph of the police officers who took selfies with two black sisters, it was indicative of where we are. Why do they hate us, do you think? Why do they hate us so much?
I think it's what Sister Sophia stated, because they know that we are the original people. They know we have something called melanin that's carbon based that keeps us in line with the creator. They know more than what we know. And going back to I didn't say that, I didn't mean that white people are overtly racist or anything like that. I'm saying that's given their full white privilege for a black person. I don't know anyone that's done that. I'm not saying there ain't white people that's going to help you or help me or help anyone else, but I'm talking about give up to a certain extent. And I'm not talking about you, Alfred, because you Cuban anyway, but I'm talking about that's given up their white privilege. Not even ones with black partners I know have done that.
But there are people, and I want to come to Alfred. I will ask Suzanne the same question and Wadada, then I want to ask Alfred what you say on this, what Imani has said. Suzanne, what say you?
Well, the last two chapters of my book does answer this question, actually. And really, it's about us as a human race uniting and fighting the dark forces. Because what they're doing, it's the same tactic they've always used, divide and conquer. So really, they're just after our planet. This is where I see it. They are dividing the whole human race. And we as a human race have to unite and fight the dark forces, and with love. That's exactly what it says, with love. So that is my answer. Even social distancing. I did a short video the other day talking about the physical and the spiritual, like with the mask. There's a spiritual aspect that you can see clearly, but then there's also something happening spiritually where they're trying to silence us. And then also with the social distancing, divide and conquer. That's really what it is. They're trying to divide us. You walk down the street and someone's looking at you like, oh, don't come too close to me. Divide and conquer. They want to conquer us as a human race. So when we can eradicate racism, that's not going to come from us black people, because we're not the people being racist. It has to come from the other races. They have to learn to love. We'll just have to learn to. We love it. We love too much, as Kemet said. We are not the ones that need to start this movement, because we already love too much, you know. So it has to be down to the other races to, and there is, like you said, just one human race, but we are different. We are all individuals, and we are different, but we are all the same collective consciousness. And this is what these dark forces are feeding off of, our collective consciousness and our emotions. So we just have to stop allowing ourselves, our emotions, our minds to be manipulated, and to unite and fight as a human race.
Absolutely. So I want to say, I want to show you a couple of things, but Wadada, I will come to you just now and ask you the same question. Why do they hate us? What's going on there? Why do they hate us? And how, you know, how do we end it? Why do we have all this hate from your perspective?
Well, to be honest with you, you know, I mean, why would they want to sort of like give up their privilege and just let us sort of like take over? They don't want us to take over nothing, because that's what they see. That's how they see it. That we might do the same thing to them, what they done to us. You know, so they're judging us by their own standards, and that's what they're frightened of.
Right.
You know, irrespective of, you know, it's all recorded that we're actually really not really like that. But you know, one thing, I was listening to a man called Michael Bradley, and he said that they have a condition called psychosexual dimorphism.
Right.
And he's got this book, what they call the Iceman Inheritance, and that's how he broke it down. That's the condition that he said that they have. In other words, whereas the condition is to do with, i.e., to love, compassion. You understand? And I think that's what we need to sort of like realize. And I think I'm all for uniting, but the key thing is, like one of the sisters just say, is for us to unite first. We have to start dealing with our problems first between us men and our women, because that's one of the things that they're playing with, you know.
Right.
Us uniting first, and then we can extend that. But we have to start dealing with each other, start teaching our children, start really just kind of cutting people out and dealing with our money in terms of saving and equipping our community. And therefore, because as the sister said, we ain't got a problem when it comes to love, but we've got a problem when it comes to loving ourselves, because that was the main things that they attacked in slavery. The main thing they attacked, you know.
Right.
There was even because whenever you hear black people talk, they keep talking about the white men. Yeah, the white woman was involved as well, because she was doing certain things to the children and the women. You know what I'm saying? So there was a bit, you know, the psychology was powerful on us for so long that we actually doing it to one another, you know? So we have to start focusing on ourselves, you know? The black man and the black woman start learning how to love one another and appreciating one another, and, you know, really put it into action now, you know?
I agree. So Alfred, do you have, in terms of the whole idea of white privilege, what say you when you look at this whole situation of where we as people of color have been marginalized, brutalized? It's always the same. If we look at, for instance, it's throughout the systemic, in the sense that if a black person wants to get a loan, they're only allowed to give it to 8% of the black community. The rest of the loans. See, the way institutional racism works is in covert ways that you wouldn't ordinarily know. Most people would not know that only 8% of the Black population are allowed to get a loan. The rest of the community will be refused. We don't own any banks now. When we in a stand that we are extremely resourceful, we're creative, we're writers, we're musicians, we're artists, and we have skills that are matched with the highest income stream revenue, IP, intellectual property. That's the highest income stream that you can get, okay? But we somehow do not benefit from the creations that we come up. We create all this IP in music, film, art, what have you, whereas other people are raising their children on our creations. Our money is funding other people's lifestyles. You go throughout the history, we look at Sam Cooke, if you look at the Jackie Wilson story, how they abused this man. They had this man, I mean, they had him performing everywhere. And when it came down to it, he had not one penny. We've heard the same story with Tony Braxton, TLC, all of these artists, New Edition, all of these people, if you type in their stories, New Edition with Bobby Brown, they were #1 sensation. They had no money. They got a check for £1,000. So there is a lack of respect and a lack of value. They actually believe that we are not entitled to what we create, what is given to us from the Creator. They do not believe that, and this is how racism works. We look at the prison system, two counterparts, same age, same crime. The white person will get much less time in the prison than the Black person, you know, and racism operates in ways that most white people don't see unless you live with a Black person. And now I'm not saying that with you, Alfred, because I think your experience is very different because you're very learned. You meet a wide demographic of audience, so you have insight on all sorts of levels of how you've lived it, you've seen it. However, for the average white person, they don't actually see. Most white people think it's, I don't call Black people a nigger, I don't curse you out, I've got Black friends, and that's their extent of how they think racism works. But it's actually much more ingrained than that. It means how you get educated. You know, there's Black people, if they have really good exams and they're very talented, their papers could be destroyed in a university. They could find themselves targeted. If they see that you're too bright, you could end up being targeted. So you're hemmed in at every single place that you go. And this is why many of us who are creatives find ourselves in situations such as this. So Alfred, what say you in terms of this whole area? Just to bring, as somebody who has understanding and understanding and overstanding of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much. And I just want to say this, that we're now at the 93-minute mark. So I'll make my remarks, and then I think we should move into the second part of the panel. You know, we'll stop recording there if that's okay. And I'll be very brief because I think that what we're dealing with is structural and it's hidden, but it's not so hidden that people don't know what it is. and it's the exploitation of certain races by other races and by other structures that exist here on the planet. And it comes down to legalities, which are both visible and invisible. If you look at, for example, in the United States, in North America, it's a certain race that occupies most of the positions in finance, in media, in entertainment, ownership, and that goes back to a secret plan that many people know as the protocols of the elders of the Sanhedrin, which is the secret Zionist government, which is a real thing, which goes back to.
Is that the protocols of the elders of Zion, Alfred? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, I call it the elders of the Sanhedrin because the elders of Zion is something that they try to use it and say, oh, that was invented by the Russian secret police and is disinformation, whereas the Sanhedrin is an actual secret government that exists to enforce these protocols, and that goes back to Babylon. And that whose God is a diabolical entity known as Molech that requires infant sacrifice, which is why you have a global a global culture of pedocriminality, and that was institutionalized further by the secret treaties that were signed by the U.S. government, starting with Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933, and then with Dwight Eisenhower, with Truman in 48, Dwight Eisenhower in 54 with the Greada Treaty, and Truman with the Tau 9 Treaty with the Draco reptilians, who under those treaties, they require so much infant. We have whistleblowers from the U.S. military, whereby at military bases, containers of cans of human infant meat are handed over to the reptilians on a regular basis, and at underground military bases, sacrificed infants and sacrificed adults are handed over to the reptilian occupants, the Draco reptilian occupants. And the United States government, the reason why it's had 175 military bases around the world is not because they're so great, it's because they've served as the proconsuls of the Draco reptilians on the planet, whose agenda for the human race is war, disease, crime, and poverty, which is what's happening in 2020 par excellence: war, disease, COVID-19, crime, and poverty. That's what they're rolling out for us. So it's really for the humans. And in that, the Dracos, I'm speaking as an exopolitician, have one of their principal underground bases under the continent of Africa. And that's why Africa is especially targeted. Now, I have in my life have grown up and have been in many of the continents. My family lived in the Ivory Coast and lived in Senegal. So I've been in Africa. I've traveled throughout West Africa at the bush level. I mean, just traveled with the people and kind of hung out there. And one of my best courses at law school was African tribal law. So I've immersed myself in that. And growing up on a sugar mill in Cuba, which I did, it's a very Afro-Cuban culture, and those who were my friends growing up as a child. So I have a great understanding of the Afro-Cuban culture from very young child up. So I think that we're dealing with culture. With the monarchies, as I stated, I think that the white monarchies that you're dealing with are extensions of the Draco-reptilian occupation.
But
If you
why do
look,
they hate us so much? I mean,
I'm sorry?
why are we so? And there's a particular hatred of black women. It's what I noticed now, Alfred.
Yeah. This
Actually,
is,
putting up some images whilst you speak.
this is for reasons of occupation. In other words, this comes from the top down. It's well known that the Queen is actually an incarnate Draco-reptilian, and that's what the Queen and Prince Philip are, and they've shapeshifted in front of people, including Princess Diana, who has publicly testified that, and that's one of the reasons why she's dead now. She was assassinated by MI5.
Wow.
You know, so this is an exopolitical war that's going on, as well as a spiritual war between races. And the white race is originally from Mars. So that this is actually a Martian occupation and a Draco occupation on the planet.
Wow. So that's why there are warmongering people amongst that race of people that are they're literally attacking us. I mean, we for me, I don't get it. I don't get why they hate us so much at all.
Well,
I think it's demonic possession personally. I want to show something as well, if I might, and then I want to call Sophia to come back.
And then we're good. I think that we should go on to part 2, because otherwise we'll just slide and not pay attention to the time.
Okay, so we can cut this one off, and then we say thank you, and then basically we'll go into part 2, so that it will be 2 segments.
So why don't we do that now?
Okay, go ahead. I want to show some images before we sign off.
Okay. So do you want to do that now, or?
No, we're going to sign off, and then we're going to then we can start with the images so that they're fresh.